your Supreme Court, which is an internal court. It's a domestic court. That court can only be motioned and petitioned only by Moroccans. So it's a Moroccan on Moroccan dispute. Mm-hmm. So it's Moroccan nationals versus Moroccan nationals. Or if two Moroccan internal states have a dispute with each other, they can settle it at the Supreme Court. But it's only for Moroccan disputes. The internal Moorish states, internal Moroccan states that come under the umbrella of the Empire of Morocco mother state, the external state. All right. So you got the Empire of Morocco, right? And then you got all the internal states underneath it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the internal states will have their own Supreme Court. The internal states will have their own circuit court. And the internal states will have their own lower courts. All right. That when Moroccans have disputes amongst themselves, they can motion the lower court. If they're not happy or pleased with the ruling, then there's an appeals court for the circuit court. And obviously there'll be a Supreme Court as well. Okay. So yes, internal disputes between Moors will be settled by Moorish courts. See, mm-hmm. Now, when you start talking about the Empire of Morocco, that's a higher a court, right? So the Empire of Morocco has its own courts. So you got the Supreme Court of Empire of Morocco, because that's a separate jurisdiction. And the Empire of Morocco has a Supreme Court. It will have a circuit court of appeals, and it will have its lower courts. Okay. Your internal states will have its Supreme Court, its circuit court of appeals, and its lower courts. You know, one time I asked some Moors on one of their YouTube channels, I said, what if a Moorish sister has a dispute with a Moorish brother? Who is that Moorish sister supposed to report this so-called criminal case to in the event that she got, let's say, assaulted by a fez-wearing Moor? Mm-hmm. And I kept asking that question over and over again to the host, and none of them could answer the question. I said, if this sister gets assaulted by a fez-wearing Moor, what is the court venue she's supposed to go to and report that Moor? Tell me, what is the name of the office of the police officer or sheriff that's a Moor that she's supposed to report the incident to and then motion the court for her own relief? And the host and the people who were supporting the host could not answer the question. They literally said, we just take them out in the alley and deal with it. I said, you know what you just admitted? You don't have a government. Right. You don't have 3 branches of government. You don't have no laws, and you have no courts to protect these sisters out here, even from Moors. That's what I found out when I started asking questions to other platforms out there. I won't say any names, but it's a well-known platform. I went on there and started asking questions. They couldn't answer the questions. So if Moors can't protect themselves against Moors, then how are we ever supposed to get protections from the people that we commonly call as Europeans? Mm-hmm. You see, we wasn't thinking to ourselves. We want protections from Europeans, but yet we didn't even have protections from each other. Right. You see what I'm saying? But now we do. We're establishing courts to be able to hear allegations from a claimant, i.e. a plaintiff. Mm-hmm. The plaintiff can now, a Moorish plaintiff, Moroccan, can bring their dispute, their grievance to an internal Moorish state. And the defendant will be summoned by that internal Moorish state. So now the Moors will have a means to settle their grievances with each other instead of having to go to the Europeans' courts. However, who can use the courts as the plaintiff? Only Moroccans. Okay. Only Moroccans can use Moroccan courts as the plaintiff. That's very important to understand. If people don't come back and pledge allegiance to the Empire of Morocco, then they can't use our courts for their grievances. That's very important to understand. So when we start setting up the procedure, because you're talking procedure right now, Americans to be able to bring their disputes, their grievances versus a Moroccan, then yes, they'll be able to motion the court or plead to the court, the consular court, directly through procedure. We'll work on these things in the future, but you always have to give Americans the right to have a proper venue, a competent venue where they can bring their grievances. If the aggrieved do not have a right to bring their dispute to a court, then that means you're violating their human right. Everybody has a human right to seek justice in a court. And Moors will always be in a position where even Americans can bring disputes against Moroccans, and Moroccans can bring disputes against Americans, but it can only be done in consular court.